Good evening, folks, and welcome tonight to our meeting. We're going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. If you join us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to take care of the monthly business of the township tonight, and if you need to address the board, there's certainly a space on our agenda for you to do that this evening. If you need to leave before we finish up here tonight, feel free to do so. You won't interrupt our meeting in any way. All right, let's do a roll call. Bella?
Supervisor Al Titus.
Here.
Clerk Dawn Beam present. Treasurer Mike Rushing.
Here.
Trustee Dwayne Hagel.
Here.
Trustee Mark Baranowski.
Here.
All right, great. Everybody's here tonight. No public hearing scheduled. The only guest speaker I know of, if he wants to, would be Commissioner Rushing.
Well, I have a couple of things. I put it on my agenda on the Ways and Means because I'm the chair for Ways and Means at the county. And the ARPA funds, pushing really hard to have a decision made within 3 months. We have approximately $16.3 million left. My position is that that should be divided equally between the 7 commissioners and to be used because every one of us pay taxes. Everybody should get an equal use of that money. One of the considerations is the health department will be moving out of their existing building over on 24th Street. And they're going to be moving into the county building. Carrie Hepting says, no, they can't do that because the state has a contract, a lease contract. Well, I said, every contract, they can get out. And she said, no, they can't. Well, she found out, yes, they can. And they have until the end of the year then to find other place to be at. That used to be really filled with state employees. Currently only 4 employees are in that 32,000 square feet. So the health department, the intention is to have them take that over. We're going to have to do some renovations in there for necessary things that the health department has to have. The estimate is anywhere from $2 to $4 million to do some upgrades in there. What will happen is we're going to sell the property on 24th Street, and I want that to offset, and we can get a estimated cost of what that's going to sell for. So we don't have to take the ARPA funds. We can ask the health department, which I did. Liz King, I asked her to give us how much money that she can put toward assisting and the move. So potentially no ARPA funds will be needed. So, but if that's a purpose that would serve District 6, and I would probably support, if they said $2 million, I'd probably support that. That still leaves $14.3 million divided, which would leave over $2 million per commissioner. That ended up being about $95 per resident. So you take your total residents, 3,000 some, make it, so your share would be about 30,000, no, 300,000.
Okay.
Right, so that's where the ARPA funds stand, and I'm going to be pushing really hard every meeting. Try to get that done within 3 months. Same thing with you guys. The monies have to be allocated by the end of 2024, and they have to be spent by the end of 2026, or the money goes back to the government or back to Washington. Another main issue that came up, and it was kind of put on us 2 days prior to our agenda, our county animal director and our county administrator have drafted a new animal ordinance. And it's very restrictive. And if you're bored, go to about the halfway point of our last meeting and you can see it on YouTube. St. Clair County Commissioners YouTube with the correct date. And she put in the wording livestock. And farmers know how to take care of, make a bull into a steer. Well, she's requiring, the wording states, and she said she'll correct it. Whether she does or not, we'll find out. But it's going to the full board to get voted on next Thursday. If any of you want to attend, any of you have concerns about animals, this includes dogs, any kind of animal in the county. So Steve Smaskowitz going through that. The county is not required. Counties are not required. I disagree with them, which we're going to get Gary Fletcher to give us a ruling on it. They're not required to have a public hearing prior to adopting an ordinance. The county doesn't. Where the townships, you have to have a public hearing.
I didn't know that.
On that also, because we already have a ordinance in regards to kennels, your ordinance trumps the county's ordinance. If you don't have one, then the county's ordinance, which you have a lot of conflicting language between the township ordinances and the county ordinance. So Bill Dieter is going to get us a copy of every single ordinance. He'll probably be contacting you. And to get a copy, if you would, if Mike could get me a copy, I want to take that to the next meeting. and I'm going to be getting with Wales. I've talked to Liz Masters. They're going to have quite a few farmers there, but they do have the 4-H county fair going on there and the livestock, so there's going to be a lot of people that
All
could
of our
attend.
ordinances are on our website.
Yeah. So Bill Dieter is going to try to assist us with that. I'm going to try to get with Steve Smasco and see if we can get a public hearing, also a workshop to draft a much better ordinance than what they have. So that's it. The other thing is potentially you're going to be talking about the pond. We do our agenda a little bit different because I'm talking as a guest speaker. I could easily talk about the pond right now. That's kind of why I'm here.
Yeah,
unless
go
you're going
ahead.
to add it to the agenda.
No, you can talk about it right now if you want.
Okay. Well, there's, see if my,
I'd like to add it to the agenda, Al, because I want
Okay,
a couple
we'll
questions
we'll
answered.
wait then and add it to the agenda.
could you make it first up? Because I don't want to sit through your whole meeting.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
I got other things.
Yeah, all right. So any idea, Commissioner, when they might make a decision on that ARPA money?
I'm going to push hard, 3-month window. It might be a 6-month, but I want to have it within 3 months, and I'm going to press for a vote. They can vote no, and it might be a 4-3 vote, but I think 3 commissioners definitely want to get the money allocated to the commissioners. I think 4 of them might go the other way. My initial feeling on it, though.
Okay. Just want to appreciate the hard work that you and some of the other commissioners have done to try to push that toward the townships. That would help us out a lot. So, thank you. All right, any other guest speakers tonight? Not guest speakers, but any other residents wishing to address the board?
I would.
All right, Stan, please tell us your name and why you're here tonight.
Yeah, my name's Jonathan Stanley.
Okay.
I'm the owner of the property at 12204 Bell River Road.
Where the pond was just dug.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. I've been a member of this community for 10 years.
Okay.
None of you have ever met me. Nobody's bothered to come down and say hello. But I went and met my neighbors on both sides, Don and Maureen on my west side and Patsy on my right. Great neighbors, no problem with me. But I seem to have a problem with the fire chief. Fire chief has written letters that I fire cannons off in the neighborhood whenever I feel like it. He wrote it anonymously, of course. He's called me a number of times to harass me about shooting. We don't shoot before dawn. We don't shoot after dusk. This is a hunter's community. I'm sure a lot of you hunt. We hunt. We have a beautiful property. I'm not going anywhere. This property is in a conservatorship. It's in an irrevocable trust. It will never be divided. It will never be developed as anything but agricultural. I'm enhancing the community. I mow the lawn. It costs me $3,000 a year to mow barn lawn. I put up pine trees along the front. Recently, I requested approval for a pond and was granted that, and I followed the procedure completely. But for some reason, a number of the citizens of this township think it's okay to come onto my property. Well, I have cameras. And if you don't know, it doesn't have to be posted as no trespassing for you not to be a trespasser. But I have a big sign right on my address, no trespassing. Yet the fire chief for this township thinks nothing of driving onto my property, wandering around anywhere he likes. I have pictures of all the other citizens with, of course, their plates, July 2nd, July 3rd, July 4th, and I've turned these over to the sheriff. So the fine's $250 and or 30 days in jail. And I'm going to pursue it because I've been treated very unfairly in this town by just one individual. Now, curiosity is okay.
Sure.
And I get that. Nobody's been there for a while. Everybody sees some activity. Wow, let's go take a look. That doesn't give you the right to take a look.
No,
Okay?
it doesn't.
And I've had a great relationship with the township. I've always gone to get approvals, permits, whatever I'm required, and I've done it faithfully. Not only that, but I pay residential taxes. My tax bill for the summer is over $3,100. My tax bill for the winter is almost $1,000. I don't think many of you pay that much for taxes. okay, for my property to not live there.
Sure.
It is for recreation. And we love our neighbors. We love our township. I love the Riley Party Store, Nancy and Tom. Like I said, 10 years I've been here, and I only have one person that constantly bothers me about shooting and about wanting to leave, that I'm an outsider. Well, I live in Romeo. I live 25 minutes from here in another rural community. I don't plan on building a house here ever. That's not the purpose of this. I live over there, we recreate over here, and I provide for your tax base. And I'm enhancing it, and I'm looking to do more there. In fact, I spoke with your building manager about doing more there. But again, I would ask everybody, don't trespass on my property. There's no reason for it. If you want to come by and see it, call me. I'm sure everybody knows how to find me.
Sure.
So I thank you for your time, but again, respect us. We're just like you, and you wouldn't appreciate it if I drove on your land whenever you're gone.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stanley. Any other citizens here tonight wishing to address the board about anything? Okay, I'll take that as a no. All right, let's move along in our agenda this evening then. We have a consent agenda which involves Riley Township Board meeting minutes from 6/13/23, a treasurer's report, June accounts payable claims report, June payable report, bond permit, refund requests, check, boy, there's a lot in here tonight, isn't there? Check requests for deposit refund, collections requests for non-resident fire runs, Dominion voting system software license, monthly RL EMS report, correspondence and communications. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda tonight?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and support.
Roll call. Roll call. Mark Baranowski.
Yes.
Dwayne Hagel.
Yes.
John Beam, yes. Al Titus.
Yes.
Mike Rushing.
Yes.
All right, motion carried. Let's move on then to approve our regular meeting agenda for July 11th, 2023. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
I'd like to make an addition to, I guess, new business, that 12204 Bell River Road.
Okay. Any other additions to the agenda tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to add 3 for new business for deputy treasurer stipend.
All right. Any others? All right, I'll take that as a no. If there are no others other than those already stated, is there a motion to approve of those additions?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mark Baranowski makes the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, Mike supports. We'll just go ahead and do a general vote on this. Okay, we have a motion to support. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, let's move on then this evening to our township news and announcements. Annual audit. Dawn, would you like to comment on that?
Yep. Annual audit is scheduled for next week, July 19th, 2023 at 7 a.m. sharp. It is all confirmed. All the preliminary reports are given to the auditors prior to, and everything's going smoothly so far.
All right, thank you. How about the 2023 Fall Festival and Classic Car Show that's scheduled for Saturday, September the 23rd?
Yep. Flyers are being produced, and yep, Dwayne
Flyers?
got those.
Yep.
We're up there. If anybody'd like to take it, everybody's welcome. It's all free.
All right, thank you. Let's move on then to our committee and departmental reports. Park and Rec Committee.
Let me see what they do. They discussed the Fall Festival at length at their last meeting. They discussed the walking track project, and they tabled the memorial bench research so far. Is that about it? Yeah. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne.
Sure.
We do need to, thought we'd address the Fall Festival expenses and walking path.
If you'd like to do that
Wanna
now,
do that now?
Yes,
Fine.
try to do that under the, under their department
okay?
and such.
Sure.
Do we have did you have something?
So it's part of the group where you see the, should be next in your packet, like after you, it's all in order. It's all in the order of the
I keep it in
agenda.
order.
Okay, so yeah, you just passed it already.
I did.
Yes, you did. So it's after the Parks and Rec
Oh,
minutes.
okay.
So after the Parks and Rec
Gotcha.
minutes.
Need
Okay.
passes for that?
Right.
Yeah, Kathy had submitted in the expenses for the Fall Festival vendor, which is Chamberlain Pony Rise, which is the same vendor that we've used every year. So you see Kathy submitted a memo to the board explaining the services that Chamberlain provides for the Fall Festival, the amount breakdown. It was an increase of $25 from last year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. They do require a $110 deposit, which I did pay to secure the date ahead of the meeting. And then, so we do need approval for the total amount for the expense of $1,135, and that includes the $110 deposit that I've already put towards it.
Do you think we should bump that up just a little bit, and then they can
Well, this
bring
is
it
just
back into
for,
it?
this is just for
Oh, okay.
Chamberlain.
Okay, the 1,100.
The 1135.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying total cost. I've missed that. Sorry.
Right. The total
Kinda.
cost, just in case there's a overage
Mm-hmm.
on what I'd like to see it brought up to, say, $1,500.
Actually, I think she says the total cost for all of it $1,595. So
Okay.
let's do 1,600.
Okay.
Thinking in the right
$5.
We
Yeah.
have music and DJ services that
For
we paid
200.
Well,
$200 last year, and it's $200 again this year.
Mm-hmm.
He plays music the entire 4 hours, and he also does DJ services for us, and he does the prizes and the raffles. He runs all of it for us, so there's no increase on that. So
right.
that's $200.
I'm just saying incidental expenses
Right.
that I would like to see it
Well, they didn't even include the
1,800
Yeah.
actually.
they didn't even include the
In
food
my
costs
opinion.
yet. So we can
Yeah,
do that in another
the only
meeting
thing
if we
that's
have an
left is
idea.
food.
Okay,
So we can prove like she knows exactly what these
but
types.
I didn't know
gonna
if there had to be like a line item. Okay, this is
Yeah.
for. So
It's
it really
1,600
doesn't.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
$2,000.
That's just for Chamberlain. That's not.
No, for everything, for the
Here,
whole.
Dwayne.
Yeah, Chamberlain is $1135,
Bottom line.
and the
Oh,
DJ
okay, I
and
got it.
music is $200, and then the bounce houses, 2 bounce houses with an attendant is $260. And the only item that went up was Chamberlain, that was $25. Everybody else is charging the same as last year. We don't have a number for food costs yet.
No,
because
because
still
we
have
gotta
to go
calculate that yet.
the list.
Right, so either we can increase, that money can use for whatever as long as
Thank you.
we approve it,
That's
correct?
right.
So it doesn't matter if we,
Food costs were
And if
last
we
year,
don't
if
spend
we-
it,
800.
yep. It was 800 last year, and we're gonna try to stick as close to that number
But
as
we
we
haven't
can.
factored in the cost of the increases in the food costs
Correct.
across the board yet. We don't know that yet.
2,500.
Wow, we
Well-
did kind of budget so much for, you
well,
know.
I would say 1,800 for this, and then depending on the cost of the food, because this money can be used towards anything else that goes over and above. That's why I would like to increase this amount, to where you have enough.
So
If
you
we
make
don't
that
need
motion
one-
then?
I would like to make a motion to, total amount of $1,800 for the, music and DJ services, Chamberlain, Pony Rides, and Bounce House, is that,
Bounce houses.
Bounce Houses,
I'll second that.
for the Fall Festival.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? If not, when Dawn's ready, we'll do a vote.
Okay, Mark Baranowski.
Yes.
Mike Rushing.
Yes.
Al Titus.
Yes,
Dwayne Hagel.
Yes.
Dawn Beam, yes.
motion carried. All right, moving on our agenda.
Did you want to, sorry, one more thing for
Well,
Parks
that's
and Rec
fine. Sure, go ahead.
that I included on there about
Get it all while we're
the
here.
walking past quotes.
Oh, yeah.
You also have in your packet a proposal for the walking path. At the last meeting, we talked about support from the community, The walking path was the number one asked for enhancement to our park. We don't have sidewalks in Riley, so for people's fitness, their safety and well-being, adding a walking track to the park would be just wonderful for the residents to use. Their kids can use it. It's multi-generational. You know, seniors can use it. Everybody can use it.
Yeah.
So we started out and we wanted to do a half-a-mile walking track, but the costs were quite high for that. And so we tapered it down to a quarter mile to see if that would be something that was more affordable, and then possibly expand it to a half a mile when Dave gets us our ARPA money. So we have 3 bids. We have, I have seen the work from all 3 companies. We have Total Asphalt, we have Harmon Construction, and Ultimate Asphalt. There is one change to Total. It is actually $3,000 less than I have in the document, because I called and talked to them and just kind of challenged the bid and, you know, asked them to consider, you know, lowering the price a little bit, and they were able to lower it by $3,000.
Great.
Total has done, you have the exact quotes underneath each one of these 2 attached to the cover letter. Total has done a lot of walking tracks. They've done them in Detroit. They're very experienced. They are they're doing asphalt on Boardman Road right now. Their bid is the one that I would recommend. It is not the lowest bid, but since I've personally gone and looked at the work from each of them, this is a company that I would recommend that I think would do the best job for the township.
Okay.
So you're recommending then, of the 3 quotes that you submitted, the middle one for the
Total asphalt.
Yep, total asphalt for $63,696.
Correct. They also gave us a bid for the half-mile track for $127,000, just to see where we are on that.
And then the outlines of the labor and everything are all, the specs and everything are all what everybody,
They're the same for each company, and their DOT regulations and specs, so.
and I did notice that they only required a 20% down versus half of the others. I did notice that.
So are you looking for board approval tonight on that?
I am, sir.
Okay. Well, it's good to hear that we're that far along. We're ready.
We've been working diligently on it.
Okay. I must assume so.
Can ARPA money be used for all of this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we have,
How much money do
we have
we have
90-some thousand remaining
90, okay.
of the federal, of just the township's ARPA money, not anything with county coming, which we do need to allocate. This is something, my personal comment on this would be, I'm in favor of this. I would really love, I think the community really wants this. I think it is a use of our ARPA funds for our township, where every single resident, community member, public can come in and use in all different levels of ability. I see so many people utilizing our township park, all different abilities. We have play groups, young preschool groups that come in. We have groups from with disabilities that come in. They van their kids here to our park. So any way that we can really benefit the community in this sense, and that's is a definite plus. I would really think that the community would really be on board with this choice of utilizing the ARPA funds for.
I agree.
Do you have an idea about where it's going?
It'll be around the soccer field, so it'll start outside of the volleyball. We gave ourselves quite a bit of space for any expansion in that area. So starting there, it moves out toward the soccer field and stays in the grass area that's currently being cut.
Okay.
So we're not going out into the farm field at this point, not with a quarter mile. With a half mile, we'd have to go out into the other section. And Total said that's absolutely doable as well. They could handle the drainage in that if we decide to go for the half mile down the road.
It is not impacting the soccer fields.
It is not. It goes around it.
It goes
That's
around, so
correct.
the soccer fields can still be utilized at this time.
Right. And the next step, just to be completely transparent, Beverly and I have talked to 8 different contractors. And this bid is for the quarter mile track. It is not for the sidewalks that would go to it. What we would like to do is 2 cement sidewalks, one from the parking lot for the office, and the other one is the soccer field parking lot, so that if somebody wanted to just come and walk and they didn't want to be in the parking lot with the other cars, they could go down to the far one. That's not going to be a large dollar figure, but when you mentioned accessibility, I wanted to just let you know that we do have to add at least one sidewalk or both to make that happen. But that's not a big dollar figure.
Would they be able to, I'm just kind of wondering, because some of our sidewalks coming into the township hall are in need of repair. Would we be able to add that if they're
That
out
would
here?
actually be helpful because they don't like to do partial loads.
Right.
Right,
So doing the whole
And
project
if-
is gonna be better.
right. So if we approve the walking path, if we approve that, I think it would be a good idea then to tackle all the issues, because we're getting some cracks in our sidewalks, which are becoming liability issues and need to be repaired. How that gets repaired, I think we would need to have them give us a quote on that.
Typically, it's a pull out and replace, but I'm not speaking for them.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
don't
saying I
know.
think that's typically the way it is.
Right, someone would need to look at it and see what is the best way to repair it, whether
And I
it's
think-
pull out or something else.
Personally, it will enhance the soccer fields, because there's no way to really get out there without walking through grass. This way it'll give you a path to get out there and put your chair on or whatever. It'll actually make the soccer field better.
Yeah, and we do have groups that come out
Yeah.
who are different abilities, and maybe it would really attract more groups who are in desperate need of accessible playground areas and such as that.
We've already contacted a couple of cement companies, who just don't have anything to share with you, dollar figure wise yet.
I have a question. Why couldn't they just cut that sidewalk and just asphalt that? And
Use
just
paths of asphalt
right,
instead.
right.
It could be done,
I mean,
but
for
typically, the walkways I've seen, there's cement walkways to the asphalt track, and then that starts, but.
I
it
mean,
could be done.
since they're going to have all their equipment and everything out there.
Right, that would be an add-on.
I don't know if it would make a big difference, because you're going from a limestone parking
Correct.
lot. Okay, just continue right from the start. When they have their equipment and everything else. So.
They would each be about, they would be 6 foot wide, same as the track, and be about 30 feet, each one of them, so that'd be about 60. The 2 sidewalks, if we wanted to add that as asphalt instead of cement, it doesn't really address Dawn's issue with the repairs of the sidewalks.
Right.
But
that's just a
yeah, they
thought.
can be done either way.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, and if you come back with another, I imagine they're going to be out for quite a while before they're going to get to this project.
I don't know, we're trying to be on everybody's list.
Well,
to pull the
I'm
triggers.
just thinking about cost reasons. I
I'm
mean,
hoping to get it done this summer.
what's the board's opinion? Should we asphalt that, or
Well, asphalt's a lot better for walking on, it's a little bit more.
right? But versus since they're going to have
Oh,
that,
for the sidewalk?
just get it done all at one time. I mean,
If nothing else, I'd even something we could replace later on with concrete if longevity of it's not turning out.
yeah, exactly. And
They've already
I'm
got
just
the
thinking
equipment,
to
the trucks here, shouldn't be
make
that
things
much of an
progress even faster for Parks and Rec.
Okay,
Maybe get a price from them just for that addition.
we can do, go ahead.
Go ahead. We can do that. Just one note is we waited 1 month on the first bid and it went from 55 to 66 in 1 month.
Oh,
So my
boy.
concern is
Right,
waiting
so-
too long,
Yeah.
it just keeps going up and up.
Oh, I got you.
So if we're able, if you decide that you want to support it and you want to select total for it, we can get a bid probably in a day for the other 2. They're very responsive.
Oh, okay.
But, if we push it off again, I can't guarantee the prices again.
One more thing to think about, as mentioned at the last meeting about talking with the school. I reached out to Sarah Davadier, the superintendent. She was overly excited about possibly doing a sports arena out here. So we'd have like a 1/4 mile track with like a football field in the center. So we'd combine our funds that we're planning to do the walking path with, along with some of their funds. And I was talking with her as far as possibly trying to get on the ballot to do like a millage. We could have like a 2 or 3 phase thing. So first year we get the track, walking path put in. And future years we can put in the bleachers and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Because right now I'm at the schools, they don't have a track, so the kids are basically running the streets. They don't have any field events, so
Well,
no, the timing's not exactly great on this, but
All right.
I don't know. I would have to really see some kind of type of proposal or something on that, because I don't know if that really fits into like with what our master plan really kind of says. I think we need to stay clear on what we've put forward in our master plan, and if we deviate from that, then we need to see something more in depth as to why that would need to be changed, because from what we collected information from the public, what would they like to see? And not once did I see anything about like a football field or something like that. The big thing was like the walking path and the playground equipment and accessibility, stuff like that. I don't know if like a high school football field fits into that. I don't know.
Down the road. Good food for thought, though. So what do we want to do with this tonight, or what are we ready and prepared to do? Are we prepared to make a financial decision on this and move forward?
Well, I'd like to hear from Dwayne. I don't think we heard from Dwayne.
If this was approved tonight, when would they start, do you know? Or when would they finish? Would it be this summer? I mean, would it conflict with the festival or no?
Well, we would be talking about that with Brian of Total as soon as you say yes, but it will be this summer.
Okay. No, I think it's a great idea, and I know Parks and Rec's been working on this for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And now we got some ARPA money. I think now is a good time.
Al, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we need to move forward on it. It's been in the works for a long time. I think it's something that the community wants, a huge asset to our park here. I'd like to see us move forward on it before the prices increase even more. So as much as possible tonight.
Mike, any more thoughts on it?
like I said, it was mentioned last week, last meeting, so I spent a couple phone calls. But like I said, I know the timing wasn't great.
So what does the board want to do with this tonight?
Oh, wait, in addition, but the site for asphalt?
6 foot by 6 times 30.
Oh, wait, you added, so you're saying the asphalt sidewalks, the addition, what's put in there would be $1,515.60
For 6 foot by 30.
for 6 foot by 30 for the sidewalks?
Oh, for that, what I was talking about from the parking lot.
Right, to add to that, to this quote.
6 foot by 30, so.
And how much, what was the
It's
amount?
$63,696. And then we
Doug, you
add,
had a question while they're doing numbers here?
On them sidewalks, I walked and I told Dawn about it last week or so. They're tipped, the concrete slab's not broken or cracked. They're tipped, the frost just moved them around a little bit.
Settle.
So you need mud jacking?
Because,
You need mud jacking to lift it?
I'm sorry for looking over.
No, it's okay.
15.
yeah, yeah, I just did 1550, you know,
Okay.
and add $1 more
We'll
to
look at
that.
repairing before we replace it.
You need 2 sidewalks.
Oh, that's per sidewalk?
Well, 60 by 30,
Okay,
so that's
All
what you
right,
said.
Doug, we'll
right.
keep that on thought.
Just making sure you do it.
You tried, Dawn.
I know, right?
Financial wizards,
I know,
Working
I need a
tonight, yes.
calculator, but my calculator's,
have they come to a
Recording.
final decision yet?
oh, so let's just see.
I'm trying to come up with a grand total.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Al, if I could.
Yeah, sure,
I
Dave.
think you could easily make a proposal not to exceed 70,000. You have the bid, and that way you got covered in case, so that way the park and rec does
I'll
not have to
take
come back
Dave's
to the board to spend additional monies.
No more than.
Yeah,
No more
not
than
to exceed
70,000.
Because we do that at the county quite often. That way you don't have to come back. If it's $100 more, it's already got covered.
Okay,
Good thought, Dave.
thank you, Dave, for seeing me struggle there. Okay, I'll make that motion then to accept Total Asphalt's bid, not to exceed 70,000, the addition of looking into the sidewalks there, improvements. So I'll make that motion.
All right. Who would like to support that?
I'll second it.
And utilizing ARPA funds.
Okay. We have a motion and support. When we're ready, we'll do a roll call vote. It's a big step forward, I think, for our community and
Okay.
our especially.
Okay, roll. Dawn Beam, yes. Dwayne Hagel,
Yes.
Mark Baranowski,
Yes.
Al Titus,
Yes,
Mike Rushing.
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Moving
Thank
on
you.
tonight, Planning Commission report.
The Planning Commission did discuss possibly new towing company at 874 Kenny Road, or at 19. The owner was in, talked to us at length about it. We discussed the master plan update
Okay.
and discussed solar ordinance future land use map. I think that was that, right?
All right, thank you, Dwayne.
You're welcome.
Zoning Board of Appeals, no meetings held.
No meeting.
Doug, do you have anything tonight for us from the building department?
Well, it's following up on some complaints which was resolved, I got them resolved, and we got some new house permits and some pull down permits, so, not too active right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. Priorities Enforcement Officer is not here tonight that I can see.
But you do have the monthly report in
You
your
do?
packet.
Would someone like to read that, if necessary? I don't need it, I've already looked at it. I think
Reading.
all of us have had a chance to look at it.
Yep.
All right, Fire and Rescue report.
Yep.
I'll get to that under the Emmett Fire contract renewal.
Yep, this is just a report of, that we get monthly to show you
Oh,
the
okay.
numbers from both fire departments.
Sure. Do you want to comment on that, Dawn?
Nope, you just, I'll be putting this in the packets every
Okay.
month, so that way you'll see the numbers as we get the reports from each fire department every month.
All right, thank you. Roads, all I can tell you on those is all the limestone is down. They're waiting to chloride, trying to jump in between the rain. This Bell River Road project should be open, according to our road foreman, tomorrow. If they don't get rained out, they should only have the guardrails to do tomorrow, and if they don't get rained out, they'll have it done. If they do get rained out, it'll probably be Thursday. We also have the Local Road Assistance 2024 applications from the Road Commission, and I'm wondering tonight if the board would like to give me some input. I have to have that completed and back to them by last of September. What would we like to consider on that Local Road Assistance program? Do we want to reconsider the approaches that we kind of put on
I
hold,
think so.
that were here on
That was Hill and
Riley? It was
Dunn.
Hill and Dunn,
Hill and Dunn.
Yeah.
asphalt approaches to those.
Do you remember the total? Like
Wasn't it
40
six?
some?
No, it
It
was
was
like
45,000 an approach, I
Yeah.
believe.
for
I think it was about
approach.
90 total,
So
and of course,
you gotta figure that's probably curbing, and there's no gutter system onto that.
would be the same as they did on Masters here,
Right.
same kind of approach there. I
So
don't think,
is it gonna be the same distance? Because that's definitely extended on Mass.
Yeah, I'm not
Because
sure.
they got that side road
Which is,
coming into it.
oh, that's, okay.
yeah, I'm not sure about the distance, so.
Yeah.
What would you like to consider on that, on the local road assistance program this year? Do we have any priorities that we'd like to put out there for consideration by county?
I
Yes,
just like to say that it's a pretty poor way they did Masters approach. I mean, there's water on both sides when it rains. It's gonna freeze and it's gonna cause an accident, so if they do it, somebody should know what they're doing.
yeah, we don't engineer it, we just, trust the county to do that, but I think the big problem they had there, and many of the approaches that are used frequently, is they just keep pushing the big holes up, and so at least when they hit that blacktop, they can stop
Yeah, I think
without
it does.
sliding out into
It
the
does work.
crossroad. It helps.
Does, I'm not really real privy on a lot of ditching road projects and stuff, but trying to look at the criteria for it. Would ditching to improve roads, qualify under this program? Are there any roads
Well,
that
We've got a
could
lot.
That's
really
why I say
benefit from the
I'm just looking
ditching?
for some input tonight, and then I'll get with the county, and we'll talk more about, I'll talk with Brennan about the priorities he
I've got
sees.
Without going through this a lot, it has to be designated for one single project, or can it be?
No, there could be more than one project,
But we have to designate
but we have
which,
to designate those projects
correct.
Personally, I'd like to see more monies go toward ditches than gravel.
Exactly, yeah, that's,
Because we keep throwing all this money away and it just washes away.
it does, well.
That's why I asked about
I'm
that.
not, when we go on the road trips, we see, and I'm not blaming the county on this, but, because they're under a time crunch. But with not having any frost in the road beds, it's just flying right into the ditch.
Yeah.
So we're losing it there.
I would get
At
with
least we
Brennan.
get some good ditching, like I said, it takes the rainwater away, and then when you lay the gravel, it stays where you put it.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
Your list of priorities this
I-
spring on ditching, I still
I
have.
I didn't bring all my ditching.
I have your list.
Okay,
So
so those are the major ones.
Okay.
Those are continuations year after
Yes.
year. I keep adding or subtracting
I'll get with
all
Brennan
those
on
when
those.
we're on the road trip.
Yeah, I think we need to, really like to see the priorities on the ditching in our township. 'Cause we hear a lot of complaints about water on the roadways and drainage issues and such, and some of the quality of the back roads, since we are one of the largest back road townships.
I'd love to put together like a 5 or 10 year plan, find the main ditches, and just work backwards off.
Well, I've look at my list.
We've been
Yeah,
doing it
Mark
for
had
years.
I'd say if we can start designating more money,
Mark
we're
had a
gonna
very
actually start
extensive
making a
list.
scratch in it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I will get with Brennan and we'll talk ditching. And it was the county's recommendation on these approaches.
Yeah.
And they just threw it out there and gave us an estimate, and it was up to us. We put them on
Well,
hold.
if you can put both projects, I mean, I don't know how bad those approaches are that are out there now. I know there's hardly anything left.
I'm just thinking for 40 grand, how much ditching can we get done with that money?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's
But
what
you got to think of, I mean, for safety reasons too.
Sure.
People flying down.
And when we get all this ARPA money, Commissioner Washington's talking about,
Right.
we're gonna use that on some of the ditching too.
Well, if I could add, part of, and working with Mike, the restrictions on the ARPA money that's left, 16.3 million has more stringent restrictions than the monies you currently have.
Okay.
The Clean Water Act, and it's gonna be like a shell game, everybody can do that, so potentially if you want ditching, let's say if we do end up getting 300,000 for Riley Township, what that'll potentially do is the monies that you're gonna use in your general fund for your roads that you would have used for ditching, now you can put it toward the project in Memphis potentially. And Bill Hazelton has also asked to increase the 900,000 for the 23 townships and our sharing, and it goes 65-35, depending on the amount of roads and your population. Riley gets a pretty good cut because you got the second most. You're not the most.
Oh,
but,
okay. Thank
you're
you.
the second highest mileage of roads for a township in St. Clair County. I'm requesting from the rest of the commissioners to consider 1.2 million, so increasing the annual funds for the township from 900,000 to 1.2 million. So whatever that works out for Riley Township, out of the 23 townships, you'll be getting additional monies hopefully. And of course, that money comes out of the tipping fees that are raised at the landfill. And the landfill raises a lot of money. It takes care of the airport. It also takes care of the 900,000 comes from the tipping fees. And that's spread equally throughout the county. So that's a very legal use to use that monies for, and that's how we came up a lot with the tipping fees. I think we're still the second lowest in the state for actual tipping fees. So our per ton, every house generates about 1.5 tons of garbage, and the tipping fees for that, I'm not sure what you guys are, about roughly 20 a month or a little less. But anyways.
Okay. All right,
So can
thanks.
this be on hold for another month? This,
The
or no?
local
Yeah.
road assistance, sure.
Okay.
Sure,
Yeah.
not a problem.
They have to have it in September.
Yeah,
So-
last day of September.
Next
You wanna
month
talk
we
to
can-
Brennan first then?
Yeah, I'd like
about
to
that?
talk to him first, see what his
I think it's a
priorities
good
are
idea.
for ditching as well.
Yeah, we can make the decision on it in next
Yeah, if
month's
we
meeting.
put
Yeah, we can table it
45,000
tonight.
in two approach, or one approach, that's 90,000, I do a lot of ditching.
Yeah,
Yep.
tremendous.
Same for us, if you can get a rate, per mile.
I can get that, yeah. All right, that's all I really needed tonight on that from the board, because I just wanted some
So
input.
that'll be tabled until.
That'll be tabled. I don't think we need a
No,
motion, that's
no.
not on the agenda, so. All right, let's move on down to.
Just to add,
Sure.
I talked to Brennan at 4 o'clock today, and he did tell me that Bell River will be open tomorrow, and with the rain and stuff, he said they should start chlorating Monday.
Okay,
Oh, good.
Great.
So
Thank you.
they were gonna start chlorating tomorrow, but he said some more rain showers, he said they're gonna wait a couple more days, so.
Okay.
Said they will start Monday.
All right, that's good news. Order of business, unfinished business A, number 1, Emmett Fire Contract Renewal. Thursday night, I was at my 4th meeting with the Emmett Fire Department, and they're struggling to put a budget together that works for all the townships. They started out a couple of 3 months ago or so, whatever it was, at a figure of 59,000 some odd dollars for the year. That was about a 5% increase. And so they've worked it down now to the sheet before you, which is 57,525 for Riley Township for the 2023, the first year of the 3-year contract. All the fire departments are struggling right now. They can't get the volunteers they need. They used to have 30 people on their departments. Now they've got about 15. They used to have a waiting list. They have no waiting list anymore. And one of the issues they're struggling with is the way the residents often use the 911 system. For example, they said that a couple of weeks ago they had a 911 call. The dispatch sent out the fire department and the EMS, which is typical. They got out there and a little guy had fallen off his bike and skinned his elbow. We had 2 agencies out there because somebody had skinned their elbow. We've also been told by the Memphis Fire Department we had 21 calls this year, correct me if I'm wrong, Dawn, from one resident for the 911 calls for the response of EMS and fire department. So I was told that from the Emmett Fire Department that dispatch is finally starting to examine, if you will, their 911 calls a little closer to see what the emergency is, what it's going to require, and they're scrutinizing the calls a little bit closer and trying to sort out which are actually emergencies and which are not. They said that nobody transports anybody to the hospital anymore. They just call 911. So, you know, it's a real problem because we're paying twice. We pay for EMS. The residents pay when they come out and serve them. And then we're paying in our special assessment for the fire departments to respond as well. So I don't know what the long-term answer is for the problems that I've just explained, but I do know that push is going to come to shove at some point, and we're not going to be able to afford these contracts the way they are in place today. And that's why I've suggested that the fire departments at least consider just fire protection and not medical response as well. That's down the road somewhere. I couldn't even really get a figure from them to consider that from Emmett, and I did speak to Memphis about it, and they were not very interested in that as well.
I'd like to comment on this, bring in some information, because we've been going over this last few months and such.
Sure.
The current annual contract rate that we left off with Emmett is the current annual is at $52,133 a year. When we prepared our budget, we anticipated what has been contracted a 5% increase.
Yeah.
And we anticipated a 5% increase from that, which was about $2,600 on top of the 52. That's what we budgeted. So we pretty much budgeted 55 in our budget. Their original contract that they proposed to us was a 14% increase. A difference of adding, and not 2,600, but adding 7,300. So now this new rate that they put on here, they dropped it from a 14% increase to a 10% increase, which is still well over our budgeted amount that we anticipated for. Now, analyzing the data from the runs that kind of come in, this is why we're doing that monthly report, so we can watch the numbers and what are the calls coming in. I see that exactly what you're describing, what's happening, is dispatching both agencies and not properly triaging the calls for the urgency, whether or not they're for the urgency and calling out both agencies. And that's what's driving up their number to us.
It is.
Over the last couple of years, I did 3 years worth of data in that report, and I'm seeing that increase, and since we put the special assessment into place. And if we're going to continue on with providing the service that we are now with fire and rescue is fire and rescue, that's not EMS necessarily. EMS is a completely different service, which we have with Richmond Lennox EMS right now, to be able to provide that service to our township. So, but they're getting called out for the medical runs with Emmett, which the fire departments are getting called out for those typical EMS calls, and not necessarily fire and rescue calls. It's just a matter of who can get out there first, but they're not properly triaging them, so you get the scraped elbow, little Johnny falling off the bicycle kind of thing, and next here we have the whole cavalry coming to rescue Johnny's little boo-boo. Not the matter that everything is, you don't know, but that's the job of the 911 operators, is to triage the call to find out is the level of urgency on the matter. Now, granted, if somebody fell out of a tree, they could have a concussion that could be life-threatening. It's like, yeah, you go. Whoever can get out there the soonest. But I do see an influx since we started the special assessment. It's on everybody's taxes. We're just going to call 911 for no matter whatever crisis I'm having that day or anything like that. Granted, there are not many times, but there are those moments where you just don't know, and whoever can get out there and provide life-saving, contact with them, it's definitely needed. So, but I do see the influx of the calls that are just like, oh, it's a part of my taxes, I'm going to call, and that's my new go-to. Yeah. I think that's the next.
It is a mindset.
It's that mindset. The only way that we can continue on that pathway, if that's what's going to go, is we would have to seriously consider increasing the special assessment. Everybody's taxes, everybody's going to have to pay for that increase to continue on with that mindset. I don't think the residents in this township want to continue on with that mindset.
I don't either. I don't think they have the stomach for it, and I don't have the stomach for an increase on a special assessment.
No, I know things must go up, and we have to plan for those increases.
Now,
Everything else
can I
is
give you
going
some
up.
input?
Sure.
Back when I was township supervisor, right after I took office here, and I was here for 6 years, Emmett tried to put a 30% increase on us for 1 year. This is a general law township. You are not required to provide fire protection. And I pretty much disagree with everything you just said. A fire department's actual cost to run the fire department, whether they have 20 runs a month or 50 runs a month, it's going to stay pretty consistent. It isn't the runs that drive up the cost.
But according to that's what they're basing their contract to us.
Well, they used to break it down every 5-year average, so it isn't like you're going to get, if Riley has the majority of the runs, you're not going to get the majority of the increase. They spread that over a 5-year average. And I said this before, if something happens to my wife or Mike or something, I want 10 trucks there. Yeah. I don't want to start arguing that we're going to wait for Lennox or the next available one. Seconds could mean somebody's life, and I don't want to have the township arguing over cost. If they're trying to get 10% or 14%, what happened when I was township supervisor and you were a trustee, Al, is I told Emmett and the supervisor from Wales, we went there and said, we're not paying it. So what we did, we'll work out, because neighbors need to work together. You need to have a very good working relationship with Memphis and Emmett and all your neighbors. And I did contact Berlin Township back then, if they would be willing to take over the fire protection for Riley Township, if we could not negotiate the contracts with Memphis and Emmett. Well, we did work it out. We did the 30% over 5 years, so a 6% increase, because Riley could not absorb the cost back then. You also have the new millage that's been passed, and I believe you've been sent a check that you get to distribute for your EMS. And that helps offset your cost. So you already got the special assessment. When I was supervisor, we didn't have a special assessment. It came right out of the general fund. Now your special assessment is raising roughly $60,000 a year, or maybe it's more than that.
No, it's less than that. I think it's about 45 or 50.
Yeah, 45.
45,
yeah.
And then you have the additional monies from EMS. I think, I'm talking about how I do it. You have an obligation to protect the residents. And I'm not going to argue somebody getting, I would not want to say the kid had a scraped elbow and find out that he actually has much more. I want everybody there. And that's what I would support. And if I got to pay more, then I got to pay more. But the special assessment, I think you need to work with Memphis and Emmett and saying, no, we're not going to take the 10% increase. You're going to be negotiating that with them. This is what we will do. We'll give you 5% over the next 5 years. We're going to give you a 25%, but you're only going to get 5% each year. And if they say we're not going to do it, then you're going to say, you could say, and that's what I did. I'm going to recommend the Riley Township Board that we no longer do business with them at Fire Department. the Emmett Fire Department and the Memphis Fire Department will fail, you guys cover a third of their cost. They will not survive without you. They need you more than you need them. And you can potentially negotiate with Berlin, but you gotta play nice and just tell them,
Right.
we're not gonna accept that kind of increase.
Yeah.
What if you told them that your finances are down in the township, well, we gotta cut the contract by 10% with you? They wouldn't accept that either.
No.
So you can't let them force your hand, at least I wouldn't. Be good neighbors, work with them,
Yeah.
but
That's what we're trying to do, Dave. We're trying to work something out. I want to say about Memphis too, since Chief Pratt took over, we only had a 2.5%
Right.
increase this year, which is one of the lowest we've ever had. So they're trying to work with us, and we're trying to work with Emmett. And our Memphis contract, of course, has been in place now for a year. We got another year on that. I did speak with Berlin, just if they could cover in the gap for us if we couldn't settle with Emmett. And at the time, they didn't have a chief, so they weren't able to do that. They do have a chief now. And so we're trying to work with our neighbors. We want to continue with them. I understand what Commissioner's saying. When you're talking about lives, it's serious business. And my recommendation tonight to the board, you can do what you want, but I think we should settle this with Emmett right now, and then look ahead to see what changes might be made, if any. And this is a 3-year contract with Emmett. This is the 57.5 is
The 3-year, it is a 3-year contract with each year increasing another 5%
does. It
throughout
does.
the life of the contract.
So whatever you want, if the board decides they don't want to approve this tonight, I'll go back to Emmett and we'll talk some more. You know, I don't know, I just don't know where this is going. We've had the other townships in there, they're all in the same boat. They're saying, Emmett, look, we can't afford this, we can't afford these increases. We just don't have the money. Wales is thinking about turning part of their township over to another fire department and opting away from Emmett. So it's a real problem, and we're trying to sort through it. What does the board want to do with this tonight?
When do we have to have an answer?
The contract's already expired.
That's what I
What we did,
April 1.
what we did was when the contract expired at the end of March 31st was
Right.
when the contract ended. So we, in anticipation of negotiation, we just paid the existing 6 months of it. So 6 months from March, so we are coming up pretty soon here when that will
Yeah.
expire. And then whatever we agreed through the contract, then we would make up they would bill us to make up the difference for whatever we would agree to a new contract.
Right, they asked us to make the old contract payment in April.
Correct.
Which we did.
Which we did.
So there's been
So
no
there's
lapse in coverage.
No lapse in coverage.
We're just trying to negotiate this next 3 years, and so that's.
Yeah, so this contract will
We
be
basically have till
till
September.
March 31st of 2026.
Right,
No,
it's
we,
a-
6
it's a
months. We only paid
3-year.
6 months.
Right now, we're covered till
3-year
September.
contract.
Yeah, it's a 3-year
Whenever
contract.
we
Yeah.
sign the contract,
Correct.
we the new
But
starting date.
once we initiate this, it's going up 5% each year. So.
Yeah, it will increase.
Can we have it to where you go and talk with them and be like, this is what our budget
Sure.
calls for, can you
Yeah.
accept this
Yeah,
or
it's
a
not?
lot.
Give me a
It is a
figure,
lot.
and I'll go back to them and say, this is what we can afford
I-
to stay within our budget, and can you do it for that, or can't you?
Yeah,
If we have time, shoot for 2.5% like Memphis.
Yeah, just ask him, the chief, if he could do something similar to Memphis, 2.5%.
Al, if I could.
Yes,
I hear.
You
That's
don't
a
let
big
them
number.
dictate whether you have the money or not. Let's say you got $1 million sitting there,
Yeah.
or you're just gonna spend it. No, you don't let them dictate to you. You run the township.
right.
You do what's fair and honest. You take care of them. If you go in there and say, well, here's our budget, this is all we can afford. No, I just go in there, our board has decided that this historically is what we're gonna pay you,
Yeah.
and that's the dollar amount, whatever that is.
Now, they're waiting for our response back.
As soon as you allow, whether it's Emmett, anybody, dictate to you what your finances are gonna be, you're not representing the residents. You know, I fight very hard at the county level, and we've had a surplus budget every year, I watch every dollar.
yeah.
Yeah, I did tell them where we were at with our budget. I told them our budget was what we paid Memphis, which is about $56,000. I said, you're still $1,500 over that. You know, if you can sharpen your pencil and get us down another $1,500, we'll do business. So they're just waiting for my response back. Whatever the board decides tonight, I'll take back to them, and we'll see where it goes. But I need some direction from the board tonight.
My position is pretty much no more than a 5% increase, which is, puts us just under 55,000 a year.
Okay.
With the standard 5% increase for the next 2 years after that. That's my
So
position.
You're suggesting that I go back to them at a 55,000 figure? Okay.
Yeah.
I like that too.
All right.
Because that's pretty much standard what we've been as an increase, and
Sure.
I think that if the county starts, triaging a little bit better on their 911 system kind of thing, that the numbers will show in their calls and the responses how they do that without actually canceling EMS services with Emmett. It would be
What about the rate of increase then?
5%. It would still be 5%.
So they have the 5%
So
then?
with right now, okay, so the 5% increase, okay, which is just over $2,600. So that would put the new contracted first year rate at $54,739.77. And then there would be a 5% increase on top of that, and then next year another 5% on top of that.
Renegotiate the next contract.
And then it would be, that's my bottom line.
Okay. All right.
Sounds fair to me.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I like what
All
Tom
right,
said.
I'll go back to them and with that figure, and we'll see if we can get a contract in place. All right, moving on
Can I ask a
tonight.
question before you go on?
Sure, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You guys were talking about important
Yeah.
stuff, but to your point of trying to improve the contract in the future, there should be best practices for their operators. And it sounds like maybe they're not using that. Can you stipulate something like that in your contract
Well,
going
it's
forward to say?
coming from the county. That's where
Yeah,
they're
the
getting
county handles the dispatch.
the county is dispatching
Okay.
which jurisdiction based on the calls that they're getting at 911.
But you mentioned several times that they're not triaging properly.
But Al's had conversations
How
with
can
them
you
about
address
it.
That was a concern of the fire chief and Emmett the other night at the meeting.
Yeah.
that
As
they
far
are-
as the township's concerned, they can either have fire respond to calls or they cannot have them respond to calls. They can't dictate what calls they go on. That's
No,
run through
right,
emergency
right.
medical
Right.
dispatch protocol that the county follows
Right.
through
Right.
the county medical control board. So it's either all or nothing, basically, or you follow their rules or nothing.
Right, when they dispatch, they have to go to wherever they dispatch you to, so. All right, do we want to table this tonight then and give me a chance to go back to them?
Sure.
Yes.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on tonight, we have the letter of understanding for the fire department grant for Emmett Fire Department. We provided this for Memphis a month ago. For whatever reason, Emmett got behind on their deadline, and they came to us and asked us to approve the letter before this meeting. So I went to our attorney, and he said if I had verbal consent from each of the board members, I could go ahead and furnish the letter to them, and then we would approve that letter officially tonight at this board meeting. So I will ask for a motion to approve that. It was a $10,000 grant for the fire department.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see them lose that because they had to wait.
No, it's basically, it's approval, it's a letter of understanding stating that they are going to apply for this grant just in the same fashion that Memphis Fire Department did. There's a state grant, deadline was Monday, yesterday, for all fire departments to apply for this $10,000 grant. Since we don't have our own fire department, but we're contracted through different fire departments, they can actually apply for the grant on behalf of our township. So this is the letter of understanding, giving them that approval to go ahead and apply. It's for fire department equipment is what they're going to be applying for. So, and it's just a legality, formality that they have to have, requirement that they have to have in order to apply. So I will make that motion to accept and approve the letter of understanding with the Village of Emmett Fire Department to secure grant monies for purchase and use of fire equipment under the Michigan Fire Equipment Grant Program.
I'll second it.
All right, we have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, moving down to number 2 that we have on our agenda tonight is the pond. I'll give you a little overview of what happened and what my decision was and why. And then we'll hear from anybody in the audience, and Mr. Stanley has already spoke about that, but I am not the zoning administrator, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not the certified assessor for the state of Michigan. I am a township supervisor, the legal agent for the township, so this decision was brought to me by the zoning administrator, and the reason he brought it to me was there was a question about whether Mr. Stanley's structure out there was considered a residence or not. our ordinance says that to have a pond on your property, it must be an accessory to a residence. So the question came down to how do we define residence, and does Mr. Stanley's property qualify as a residence or not? Our attorney sent me to our assessor to see how the property had been assessed and taxed. The property has been assessed and taxed as a residence for many years. In fact, way before Mr. Stanley owned the property, it was assessed as a residence. So because of the advice that our attorney gave to me and my going to the assessor and Steve's advice back to me, I made the decision to issue the permit and let Mr. Stanley go forward with that, because for the purposes of this ordinance, I was told by our assessor that the building is, if it is taxed as a residence, then it is a residence. I know there's been a lot of controversy about it. I've been thrown under the bus a number of times already for this decision. I didn't want it, but sometimes I have to make those tough calls. And when I have to make them, again, I don't make them on my own. I look to the legal advice that we have here and the assessing advice. So I did make the judgment call. Steve will have to go back. Mr. Stanley has conformed with soil and sedimentation and gotten their permit. Steve will have to go back when he's completed out there and do an inspection, a final inspection on the pond to approve it. So with that said, I will let Mr. Hagel, Trustee Hagel, speak, and then we'll get to...
A couple questions. Why is it still being assessed as a resident?
Well, that's because it was on the books as such, I believe, since Paula was here.
Okay.
And we did search the ZBA records today to see if there had been any ZBA action taken at the time it was utilized as a residence. Basically, been used as a barn dominion. But we went back at least 20 years, and it's been assessed that way for that long, between 15 and 20 years.
So, his residence in Romeo, correct?
Correct.
So why isn't it?
Why hasn't it
assessed
been changed?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why shouldn't it be changed back the other way? So far,
it probably should have been, but it never was.
Well, if I can, I went before Paula, the former treasurer,
Okay.
and an entire committee, and I don't recognize anybody,
Yeah.
but I petitioned that. I had to pay a lawyer and come in here, and I asked for reduction. And
see, I don't understand. If our assessor, he's by state law, he's got to do 20% of the township every year. So in 5 years, he does the whole entire township. Why is this not assessed back to non-resident?
Probably because a resident hadn't asked for it.
well, no, I did originally.
He did before Steve took over.
Yeah, I did that way back when I bought it back in 2013 and was denied. In fact, it was.
Did you come to a board meeting or was it the
Yeah,
board
do you
review?
remember?
No, I had a meeting in your office over here with Paula and two other officials. In fact, I don't see them here today.
It may have been a board review.
But again, I had to have an attorney and pay all that.
What was your request at that time?
That it remained as an agricultural property, because that's what we were going to keep it as. We grow plants, we nurture the trees. We're not looking to do anything developing style, and they denied it. And then I came back again.
We have many of these in the township, not just Mr. Stanley. There are a number of pole structures, and Doug would confirm this, that are used as either a part-time residence, a vacation residence, a weekend, whatever you want to call them. They're used as an overnight residence, and they're a part of the pole structure. So this isn't the only one that's existed here. And we can say it fell through the cracks and it wasn't changed back the way it should have been.
I don't think it's listed as ag, isn't it RC district?
I don't have it.
It's
I just
listed
looked
as
at my
ag.
tax.
Really?
It is. It's ag.
Did you ever live off of it?
That should be all river conservation district. It's not ag.
I don't have it off the top,
Yeah.
but I'll look at my, I
You
just
know-
received my tax notice.
Far your pond is from your south property line?
My south property line, you mean, so east and west. So west would be Don and Marine coming up Bell River from the golf course. And I'm probably a half a mile from theirs.
So this distance from
Doug, I'll
Your
get to your
pond?
question in just a minute.
My drawing,
Yeah.
if I may.
So what's the distance from here to this property line?
Oh, this is easily, that's Patsy's house or Pat.
This line right here. Isn't that your property line?
No, this
What's
is.
that line for?
Well, again, I drew this, the scale is not correct, but my property drops off, and I walked Steve Barker all the way down, and we were a good 500, 600 feet from the property line.
So from this edge of the pond to the Bell River is closer than 500, that's why you have a silence
It was 450 to
So
465 feet, Steve said.
That's why you pulled that from that.
Well, that's why I was told to, yes. But the pond size is also decreased. It's only,
Is it still over an acre?
no, it's just about an acre. It's 200 across, 210, 210, and 215 to 220 on the back. So not anywhere near the size that I originally wanted. But again, a large pond, needless to say.
Being that close to Bell River, have you contacted Eagle at all?
No, I was not told to, but I will.
No. So Doug, did you have a comment?
Yeah, as far as what is assessed, it don't make any difference what it's, what the ordinance reads. It says accessory to a resident.
Yeah,
And a
but
resident is living on the property.
one of the problems with residence is it's not defined in the ordinance anywhere.
Right.
We went through it, me and Mr. Vickery went
Well,
through
you're
it.
looking up in the dictionary.
Well, you can look at it. That's true, you can do that. But it should be defined specifically, I think, in that
You have
ordinance.
it?
What kind of residents are we talking about here? We talking about 100%
Yeah,
PRE or
100%
that his is 20% PRE?
But our ordinance doesn't need to define what is a residence.
Exactly.
In our other ordinances, zoning ordinances that we have, where it's required to have a residence kind of thing, it's specifically defined in that ordinance. In this particular ordinance, just as you read it, item number K, all ponds must be an accessory to a residence, no pond permit will be issued for vacant land. So then, that term residence is not defined in this particular ordinance, so
Well,
that's where the, you know.
When I bought the property, it was owned by Smith. And my understanding is he kind of duped the township to begin with. He built the barn, put the cart before the horse, and then put his apartment in it. And lived there for, I think it was 72 that he put it up. So, again, I know you changed the ordinance afterwards, but, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
unfortunate.
Have you ever lived in that apartment?
Lived?
Yeah.
I've spent the night. We've
Okay.
camped,
Yeah.
but lived? No.
I'm trying to figure out how.
I mean, this guy shot inside his barn. Okay, he burned half of his deck down.
I've seen some great barns. I've seen some horrible barns. I
Yeah.
haven't been on your property.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
know. So
And
just trying to get
again,
an education here.
I want to make it nice, but you know, we had a failure in February 18 where it flooded, so it completely damaged the interior. But again, we don't reside there. No, we're 20, 25 minutes. We're there often. My son gardens out there. He works for a nursery. We hunt out there, and we enjoy the property with our dogs. We have a wonderful time. We love this neighborhood. That it's my up north next to my house. I don't want to drive 2 hours,
I'm 100% with you.
and I don't mind paying my taxes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stanley. Let's move on and I can get the rest of the comments.
I have a question. How can it be 20% PRE if he doesn't live there? PRE means principal residence exemption. Is he 80% in Romeo, or is he doing 120?
I don't know, that was probably, that
That's
was
wrong.
put in place, I believe,
I just am
by
bringing
the
that up because I want to know the answer
former
to that.
assessor as well. So, we inherited this situation, so. So we, yes, Kim?
Next week.
Definition of accessory too is something I have a question about.
Sure.
It seems like a lake, it doesn't seem like a pond. Now, I haven't been on the property, Mr. Stanley, but I do see the amount of dirt that the berm that you've got going around. And I'm assuming that dirt's coming out of what you're digging for the pond, is that correct?
Yeah, the berm has been completed. It complies with the current standards that you have.
Well, I don't know that it does. I mean, how do we know that? 'Cause it
Jim's
hasn't-
been out to the property and inspected the property and said that it complies with the ordinance, that it must be 6 feet, no higher than 6 feet. And we have a proper gate or gable for the, so it can be maintained and mowed. So again, The building manager had no problem with it, and again, I took Steve around it because the county's problem. Scott Barker, yep, he came out. And, you know, he needed to make sure that it was far enough away from the street ditch. I had pine trees before it, so we had plenty of clearance there. And I walked him all the way down. So to Patsy's side, everything was done accordingly. And again, any permit that was supposed to be pulled, if I was deficient, I would do it. I want to be compliant. I want to be a good neighbor. I'm not looking to make this anything of a problem.
Right, we understand that, Mr. Stanley. I made the judgment call here according to my assessor and our attorney. So you did nothing wrong. We made this call.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And the call's been questioned, so we'll see what other comments we have, and then we'll move on tonight. Mr. Rushing.
Well, I imagine Jim's going to make sure that, because I'm guessing that there's going to be 20 to 25,000 cubic yards taken out of the measurements that you put on your sketch. I don't see on the sketch, but Jim's going to verify that it's within the compliance of the setbacks. The sketch is fairly poor, just looking at it.
I wasn't born as a drawer, yes.
When I'm looking here, you got 700 feet to the river. Anything within 500 feet, I believe Eagle needs to be contacted to make sure that you have the state's blessing, because potentially you're going to have overrun to the river. And nothing against you, but whatever could potentially be put that pond could end up in the river.
Contamination.
And with the heavy rains and everything, I don't think you get enough flooding there to get up to where your pond is at. You said it's less than 1 acre, but you do have a soil erosion control permit from St. Clair County.
Because they included the berm as part of the pond size because I removed the dirt. That was Steve's explanation. Because I pointed out that it was under an acre. And he said, no, you remove dirt, that creates the extra size.
And you're disturbing
Correct.
that land.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if any material is getting removed from the property.
None.
Okay. So that's another concern, because then you'd require a mining permit. Well, you would. Part of our ordinance. And Al, you know I'm very frank. I think I'd take a section to supervisor, the clerk, the treasurer, or even trustee here that can go into the office and okay the office personnel to write a permit when the actual officer that we've had hired for the township did not recommend it. He did not want to approve it. So.
Well, that's not what he told me. Jim said he didn't have an issue with it. That's what he told me when he came to me.
I had about a half-an-hour conversation.
Did you? Well, then he better get his story straight, because he said, I'm not going to make this judgment call. I don't have an issue with it personally, but I'm not going to make the judgment call. That's how I inherit.
That's what he told me today.
Well, that's his job, and that's what he gets paid to do. If he would have made that decision, I would be much more comfortable.
I would be
Mark,
too.
if you would have had something in the township that you wanted to prove, and the office personnel work for the trustees equally, you could go in there and instruct somebody to do something outside of the full board here. I think that's slippery slope. You start doing that. So,
exactly.
Al, I hope you don't do it again.
I don't want the decision. I didn't ask for it.
No.
But
Right.
sometimes it's put in my lap and I have to make that decision. So
Well-
again, I base it on what our attorney told me to, and that was Steve's assessment and taxation by this township. And if I had it to do again, I would do the very same thing. I'm not going to go against our legal advice or the advice of our assessor. So there you go.
I just wish Steve would have been here tonight, because I'm sure he knew that we were gonna talk about this.
Well,
Yeah.
Steve and Jim, Steve has made numerous mistakes, which you and I have talked about. He made a mistake on my property over in Berlin Township. He made a mistake on the 2 houses I have across here. And he made a mistake on the golf course.
Well, we all make mistakes.
I know.
Dave. You know, we're all human.
So
But
let
we're
me
all
ask,
learning.
what seems to be the overall issue, other than,
Residents.
I have a pond and
It's
nobody
just
else
we're
does.
Residency.
setting up a
Re-
precedent
residents,
right now, so
yeah,
if we've
yeah.
got the rules for you, it's
You've got a
been the rules
couple
for
ponds
everybody.
going in all over the place over here that I've seen. There's one up the street from me that's less than 100 feet from the Bell River,
Without a house on it?
with a house on it,
Well,
with a house
yeah,
on it.
that's totally different then.
So you can have a building and you can be on top of the river and there's no worry about spillover from that pond. But because I don't live in the barn and I'm 450, 460 feet away, that's a problem. That's kind of interesting, don't you think? Listen, I'm not going to do anything that's beyond agricultural.
Let me finish what I want to say here.
Yeah.
Because I got an issue being your vice chair on the planning commission. We have ordinance that's in place. No pond permit will be issued for vacant land. You've already stated here tonight that it is vacant. You're going to go use it for recreation. You do not intend to live there. It is not a residence. The assessing, and I've got a lot of experience at doing assessing, and it tells you right on your bill that if you pay the bill, you agree to it. If you got a problem with it, then you got to come to the board of review. You did not do that, so you accept it as it was. That doesn't dictate that the assessing says it's a residence or not, even though you're being taxed for that.
Would you like me to live there?
That would make this legal.
Okay, so if I put up a barn dominium,
Whatever structure it is.
okay, so if I replace the current barn with a livable habitat, this is all good?
No, you'd actually have to live there because you're...
I don't have a problem with that. I got a kid right here. He can live there.
Wherever you're going to potentially...
But you're making the point after the fact. I've been here for 10 years. Nobody said anything then. And when I argued the point, they kept the taxes the same. So again, and several times I came here to...
You would have went to the board of review, and there'll be documentation on that. So I would ask that you get the approximate date, let Al or the office investigate that meeting actually took place, because that does not make sense to me.
Okay.
That the board of review would have refused it. On its surface, if nobody's living there, it doesn't make sense that the board of review would have done that. We got very qualified people here on the board of review. We got one sitting in the back right now.
So
And
as we've gone through this conversation, I am recollecting that it was at board review that he came to.
yeah, I'd like to see, at least myself, because I have a concern, being your vice chair, Al, that if we're going to write ordinances, that we're going to be in non-compliance, and that's what I believe this is. And if it's, I want everybody to do whatever legally they can on their property. If they're in non-compliance, and we're going to be writing ordinances that don't have to be followed by the fullest, right, like it says in there, and that's pretty point blank what it states. It has to be a residence. He stated, and I believe you also have this in email, that he does not live here, doesn't plan on it for now. Potentially his son will. If you, and I'm just throwing a thought out there, if you're legal to, I want you to do whatever's legal. If you have a time frame where your son will have a livable piece of property there, I ask you to potentially have that for consideration for the Board of Trustees, that there will be a residence there, and then it will be in compliance with our ordinance. Because in my opinion, right now, it is not. And I take exception to being on serving for the township, writing ordinances that are not going to be followed. Because if this isn't in compliance, in my opinion, I can go put a pond on my property. I don't need to get a permit because you're already, in my opinion, violating the ordinance. And that means that anybody within this township can violate the ordinance. So that's why I take exception. That's why I'm here tonight.
I understand.
And I believe Steve was very wrong. And I think if, similar to what happened with another conversation with Mr. Vickery, if he was given additional information, I believe he would have had a different finding if he would have had entirely all the facts.
Well, we're all entitled to our opinion, and it's obvious tonight there's a difference of opinion here. So I'm just explaining to this board and this group tonight that I do what I'm advised to do by those that know more about the job at hand than I do, and that's why I acted as I did. So if Mr. Stanley decides to finish that barn,
I'll pull a permit next week for you.
And somebody resides there and gets their mail
I have
there,
no problem with that.
then you're legal.
I would love that.
If I could, because we have other instances for different special zoning in the township, and residence is required there also. You live in Romeo, that's your voting, that's what you have to vote. If you have somebody that's going to actually live there and a resident, they're going to be voting in Riley Township.
Correct.
Right.
And that would verify that it is a residence. So I would be, I think, I have no problem with the bond. What I have a problem is illegal.
Is how it went.
Yes.
How it went, correct. I can
So,
understand that.
if potentially you could have your son move in there as a resident and a Riley resident and forward something to this board for consideration, and I'm sure they'll be considered 4 months, 6 months, a year, but just stick to your word. And it sounds like you.
I will be compliant, trust me. I'm a fiduciary, so I
I'm
don't lie, cheat, or steal.
I'm the county commissioner. I'm here as a resident voicing my concerns. and serving on the planning
Well,
commission.
and again, I can appreciate that, and I like putting money into the township, because again, I'm supporting everybody. And I take care of Brant Coddington for the last 10 years, has mowed my lawn. Love the guy. So I have no problem with that support. And I didn't argue paying for the trash, the school, the extra fire, all of that. I didn't argue one point, because I'm a member of this community, whether I live here 24/7 or not. I still feel that we're here to be stewards of the township. And that's the way I feel. And that's why it's in a conservatorship. So it can't be subdivided, and it can't be developed for housing. That's atrocious to me. We want the land to remain as it is and be enhanced with trees, the fish, the birds, the wildlife, all of it.
And I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know the Board of Trustees, because they run the township, I don't.
I
But
understand.
if they're in agreement with you coming forward to make it in compliance, I think that's definitely consideration.
Well, again,
Absolutely.
this is the first, today is when I heard about the meeting from Jim when I called him. You know, and I appreciated that, and that's why we're here tonight.
I've been on this for about 2 weeks now, and I have concern serving the township on the planning commission if we're not gonna make our ordinance adhere to.
Understood, completely. There are rules to follow.
All right, any other comments tonight before we move on? I don't want to be here all night. I don't think anybody else does. But I appreciate you being here, Mr. Stanley.
Thank you for having me.
So we have one more item on the agenda tonight, number 3, and I think that's Mike's.
Yeah, just I think Dawn is a wealth of knowledge as far as being a treasurer. She answers my questions very efficiently, sometimes more efficiently than I need. But just reviewing what she's making like $50 a week. I'd like to talk to the board about possibly raising her stipend for a month.
$50 a month.
Paycheck.
$600 a year.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have her as a deputy.
Very. I actually don't think I
many
could have done the
years.
job without her here for at least the first 6 months.
How much a month?
$50 a month for a
The
deputy.
deputy on call is
It was
$50.
125 when I was supervisor.
Oh, it must have
For
went
the
down. Because it's been 50 here for a long time.
Yeah.
So you're asking for us to consider increasing that?
Right.
Okay. I have no problem with that at all. I know her expertise, and having worked with her all the years I did, I know she's worth much more than that to you as a deputy.
Definitely, 100%.
So what were you thinking? Did you have a number in mind, or?
Personally, I think 50 is kind of a joke.
I agree with you.
And honestly, except with her wealth of knowledge, I don't know if I could put a number on it that would justify it. But,
Well, how often do you contact Dawn for
around
information? Now,
tax
I know I've
time.
called on her for when you've gone on vacation to sign checks and stuff like that.
But like I said, around tax time, at least a dozen times. And it's anytime I can't get through the county or whatever, she's there, always answers my calls, and very friendly, very proficient. If she doesn't have the answer, she always has it in a very short amount of time. So, I mean, I think doubling it to $100 would be
Minimal. So any thoughts, Dawn? I mean, we've talked about this. We've talked about the deputy, what the deputies get, and they get very little. What I'm wondering tonight is if, and I think we should raise Dawn's, are we setting a precedent then to increase the other deputies that we have as well? Or not necessarily so?
Not necessarily, because it depends on the position and the amount of responsibility and based knowledge based on that deputy position and what do we use those deputies for?
Right.
Like I have a working deputy, which is a bit different.
Right.
Your Dawn is on like an on-call deputy. You're using her for consultations when needed, kind of thing. I call on her because she is a check signer for when you go on vacation and we have to run accounts payable checks that can't wait and stuff like that. So, and she's always been such a so pleasant because then we kind of just meet up for lunch and stuff because she does work full time in another municipality and stuff. So we'll
she
meet
also
up.
gives me heads ups all the time with new stuff. That
New
coming in.
information and stuff like that. So yeah, because she's in another municipality, so she still continues on with that working knowledge for that. I know your wealth of knowledge, but I just think that what you're saying, doubling it, is still a little bit steep. I would recommend 75 would be my recommendation. Do a little, because we do budget for these amounts, and we've only budgeted so much for it, kind of thing. And I know you use her more or less when the tax seasons, which is twice a year, especially with dealing with the county and stuff like that. So I try to look at like how many hours do you, I'm an analyzer, so I just try to, even though I don't crunch numbers very well here, I try to like think about like time spent. I'd look in the value of the time spent and the wealth of knowledge that she has and stuff. So I look at that for the position. That's why I kind of asked you, how much time, Dawn, would you be able to say, have you invested, has you been able to, been called on to help out with Mike and stuff? Can you, any idea,
It
like
just
time
depends.
frames?
I mean, I think more than time, I think you pay for my knowledge that I carry as a consultant.
Yep. Yeah.
So does someone want to make a motion then?
I would still like to see her at $100.
I
for the
would
most.
too. I would too.
So
Want to make that motion?
With it, yes,
Okay.
yes, I will make that motion.
All
I'll
right.
second it.
All right, we have a motion and support.
For $100 a month stipend for the deputy treasurer.
Yes.
Do you want a roll call on this?
Yes, since we're increasing a stipend, so one moment. Just gotta get this all written down here. All right. Mark Baranowski.
Yes.
Dwayne Hagel.
Yes.
Al Titus.
Yes.
Mike Rushing.
Yes.
Dawn Beam. Yes.
Motion carried. I have nothing else on the agenda tonight, other than comments from the board members not already addressed. I want to make a comment. Mr. Vickery and I are working on a fundraiser this Saturday. It's for cancer support, Gilda's Club, Metro Detroit. And he wanted me to personally invite everyone in the township circle that works in the township circle, and also those that are here tonight at this meeting, to come out on Saturday, this Saturday, the 15th at 2 p.m. That's when it starts. There'll be refreshments and lots going on out there, so I just want you to know.
And that's
invited.
at his
Right
residence?
At his residence on
Okay.
Masters Road. Yep. That's all I have. Any other comments from the board?
Nope, I don't have that.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Come on, I don't have my phone on. I don't have my phone
I'll make a
on.
motion to adjourn at 8:32.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
The one time I
Aye.
turn my
Motion
phone.
carried.